Over the last month, we've started to transition from a seller's market to a buyer's market. Now, as a buyer's agent, this makes me so excited. And in this video, we'll talk about why this is happening, the opportunity, as well as some of the history around when this has occurred before. Super excited about this video today. Sweet, Simon. So you're in the market every day at the moment with our clients. Like, why do you see such a big buying opportunity this year?
You know, there was a little bit of a hangover from 2021. It was a pretty wild year, right? You know, we were forced into a situation where only really 2 out of every 5 offers that we were submitting for our clients were getting accepted. We were getting beaten by $10,000 to $100,000 on these offers. And it was really challenging to secure those properties. But with Brisbane where it's at in its current real estate cycle, coming off a very, very, very underperforming decade, it really looks good over the next 10 years. And there's information out there from the Australian Financial Review where they believe real estate values could double in Brisbane between 2021 and the 2032 Olympic Games. So why I really like it right now is because what we've started to see at the beginning of 2022 is we're finally starting to see some listings increase. So there's more properties to actually consider, whilst at the exact same time, we're starting to see the buyer activity drop a little bit and the average days on market increase a little bit. So what that actually represents is a short-term buying opportunity where you're not competing with as many other buyers. You might have a little bit more ability to negotiate with those real estate agents and find a bit of a better deal rather than when you're competing with 20 to 30 people on every single property and properties are selling within the first couple of days of being listed online. I think as a buyer, having that time, having that space to be able to analyze the opportunity and make sure that you create the right plan moving forward to secure that opportunity is the best opportunity that you can look for. Now, this reminds me of back in sort of 2019 or early 2020 when we were helping some of our clients purchase properties.
Sweet, man. So I think we've bought more than 800 properties now in the last 6.5 years. Let's talk to some of those people that we bought last time the market was like this, back in your 2019s and 20s.
Yeah, I got a little bit of a sheet here with some clients that we bought properties for in the past. Now, I think it's important to recognize that, you know, back in 2019, the beginning of 2020, it was a time where sentiment around the property market wasn't looking too good. Back in 2018, there was a guy that came on TV saying that he thinks property prices could drop by 30 to 60%. At the beginning of 2020, we had people coming out saying that they believe real estate prices could drop by 30% as well. Obviously, it went the other way. So some of the clients back then that found that confidence to still move forward and execute their strategy have received some amazing gains over the last couple of years. Now, the first example we got here is from one of my best mates from Sydney, LT, who we've actually just purchased his 3rd investment property over the last 4 years with. LT, amazing activity, mate. You've absolutely crushed it. But back in 2019, he purchased a property in a suburb called Clontarf, which both Ben and myself also own in northeast Brisbane. Now, that was the true bottom of the market back then, and he purchased a little unrenovated home on a nice big piece of land on a quiet street for only $347,000. Now, only a couple of years has gone by since he purchased that property and settled on that property, and it recently got revalued at $650,000. So he's made over $300,000 over the last few years by finding that confidence, moving forward and still sticking to his long-term strategy. Then I think about another client, Malik, who started working with us back in 2020. We've now purchased 2 properties with Malik as well. He's been really going very well over the last couple of years, but we purchased a property in this great little up-and-coming suburb called Meadowbrook. Now, Meadowbrook at the time had a little bit of a stigma about it. Not a lot of people like to buy in that particular suburb, but when we looked at the type of gentrification that was happening and the fundamentals of that particular suburb, it looked like a really good buying opportunity, and we secured Malik a great low maintenance home for $440,000 in the mid to late 2020. Now that property just recently got revalued at about $650,000 also. So he's received over $200,000 worth of capital growth in that really short period of time. as well, being able to identify that short-term opportunity.
What I also love, bro, about Malik's property is the house is rented for $500 a week, and he's currently building a granny flat at the moment, a little two better, which will rent for another $400 a week. So not only has he created this product for $650K, that has been revalued well above that now with the granny flat, but he's also going to be getting $900 a week in rent, plus the tax benefits off the back of it.
I love that Brizzy poses that opportunity where you can get both capital growth and cash flow at the moment still. You know, the third example that I had written down here was one of our other favorite clients, Gus Hamilton, who also purchased a property back in 2020. I think it was around September, October. So this was as things were starting to move. Now, he purchased in, once again, this nice up-and-coming suburb called Crestmead. Now, I think Gus purchased this property at the true bottom of Crestmead's cycle because he purchased it at $310,000. Now, this was before anybody wanted to purchase properties in that suburb. Now, when we're trying to negotiate in this particular suburb, we're competing with a lot of other buyers because it's become one of the more sought-after areas in South Brisbane. Now, his property today would be selling easily for over $500,000. So there's just such a great opportunity, and this is what we want to talk about. There was such a great opportunity back in 2019, 2020, where there wasn't too many buyers out there in the market. It was definitely more of a buyer's market than a seller's market. And obviously throughout 2021, when real estate prices just went bonkers in a lot of parts of Australia, it became very difficult to purchase properties, which I think has led to a bit of fatigue. A lot of people are, feeling quite overwhelmed. Maybe they've got that FOMO. They're like, oh, I've missed the boat. And I think property prices are too inflated now. You've got to remember that there's always that opportunity. And something that we love to do is dive back into the historic data to figure out how markets like Brisbane, Perth, Sydney, Melbourne perform from a longer term perspective so we can see whether or not it actually is a good buying opportunity.
You know, one of the things that we've done just recently is I've just re-looked at about 80 to 90 suburbs in Brisbane that I've had earmarked for a while. And some of these suburbs have done 8% growth per year over the last 10 years. And some of them just a little bit further away have still only done 2% per annum. So when we talk about in previous videos, there is no Australian market or Sydney market or Brisbane market. Brisbane is actually 5 to 6 separate markets within one market. And some of these places are so undervalued at the moment. In fact, one of them you can still buy below $400,000, which is absolutely insane, where some other parts of the city, the same distance, the same property would be selling in the 900,000s right now.
So why does 2022 represent such a good buying opportunity? What looks really good over the next 5 years?
As you mentioned at the start, man, we are now moving into a buyer's market, which I love because it gives you a bit more space, some more properties to choose from. The days on market are a little bit longer, which means you have longer to negotiate. The agents are a bit more open to having a chat and to doing deals, which is cool. And the crazy prices that some people, obviously not us, were prepared to pay start sort of looking a little bit bumpy at the top, and you start to be able to negotiate some really good deals. Now, the reason Simon and I feel so confident is only because we've looked back at the history. Now, if we look at the period, which was the last 5 years of the last real estate cycle between 2003 and 7, prices in Brisbane went up 76%. If we look back at the 5 years leading into the cycle before that one, between 1985 and 1990, prices in Brisbane went up 73%. Now, what's funny about that is I was watching a video from Phil Anderson recently where he talked about prices potentially going up between another 50 and 70% in certain markets in Australia over the next 5 years. And I almost fell off my chair because I couldn't see it happening. Then going back and looking at the history for this video, I was like, holy shit, he's not pulling these numbers out of the air. He's looking back at cycle after cycle after cycle. Now, Simon Priestley is expecting rents in many parts of Australia to go up between $100 and $200 a week this year off the back of the inflation. Commonwealth Bank thinks that the inflation is going to get so rampant in the next year and a half that prices of properties Australia-wide will represent value again and be extremely affordable. On top of that, Simon Priestley from Propertyology is expecting house prices to potentially go up between 30 and 40% in Adelaide, potentially Brisbane, Canberra over the next couple of years, maybe Hobart as well. And according to the Australian Financial Review, house prices in Brisbane are expected to double between 2021 and 2032. Now, when we're coming across as confident at the moment, it's because we're not getting caught up with the noise of a flood event or a event overseas with what's really happening with the true Australian economy at the moment, where there's more infrastructure, more savings, and some really, really strong population growth coming. I'm super, super excited about the next year and a half, which will represent a crazy buying opportunity. And then off the back of that, I think the next 3 to 5 years are going to be extremely strong based on history of previous cycles.
Oh man, I'm really excited about the buying opportunity that is presenting itself at the moment and can't wait to go out there and help some people purchase some properties. Now, if you're thinking about buying a property in the next 6 to 12 months, then we would love to offer you a free one-on-one strategy session where we can talk about exactly where you're at right now, where you would like to be in the future. We can educate you on the market, and then you can go out there and absolutely crush it yourself or become one of the small number of clients that we work with each month. Either way, we wish you the absolute best of luck, and as always, invest safely.
Woo! That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
Getting cool, bro. Yeah.
Oh, sweaty. So sweaty. Oh, that's good. Look at that.
Very nice, eh?
Oh.